Foreign Affairs Minister Bob Carr has revealed Australia will partially lift sanctions against Burmese political and military leaders. He's in London for talks with his British counterpart, the Foreign Secretary William Hague. Senator Carr told Europe correspondent Philip Williams that around 260 Burmese will no longer be subject to restrictions.
Well, we're easing sanctions. We're doing that after talking to Aung San Suu Kyi and others in the opposition, after talking to the government itself, after talking to other nations. And it means that the number of people in the Burmese government subject to restrictions on their financial dealings with Australia or visas to Australia will be reduced from 392 to about 130. And that removes many of the civilians from the list, and that includes President Thein Sein and government ministers. But senior serving military officers and people of human rights interest will stay subject to those Australian sanctions.
So this is really reward for good behaviour. Are you confident that this is a path that will continue?
There are people watching Burma who say this is now irreversible. There are other people who say that a government is never more vulnerable than when it's engaged in bold reforms of this type. I think the President is sincere. I think he deserves these rewards. But, of course, it's always possible to resume these sanctions.
Well, let's turn to a country that's not looking so good right at this moment, and that's Afghanistan. We've got insurgents in a number of places attacking embassies in Kabul. What do you say to Australians that say, well, why are we there? Why are we risking the lives of our soldiers when inevitably the Taliban are just going to take over?
I can understand completely what Australians are saying when they look at news like this out of Afghanistan. And the fact is we're engaged in the transition. We're engaged in handing over responsibility to the Afghan forces themselves. They are going to have to carry on this fight. So in line with everything we've said, we expect the transition to be completed by the end of 2014.
And yet when we see incidents like this, attacks, full frontal attacks in the capital itself, doesn't that say to you that the Afghan army simply isn't capable of looking after the country itself?
I think without a doubt it points to the need for additional training, for upskilling of the Afghan army, for that process to continue. That's the most important part of the work being done by us and our partners in Afghanistan at the present time. Our job is to see that the transition works. It works for us and it works for them.
Senator Bob Carr, the Foreign Minister, speaking to Phil Williams in London, and of course we'll have more on what is still a developing story in Afghanistan. Those attacks are continuing in some parts of that city over the course of the program.